You get mad because it's like you feel abandoned a little bit, even though you know you can't control it or have any power over it. But then it's like you have a huge gap where everyone around you, Mother's Day, you know, like holidays, Christmas, and everybody can talk to their mom for advice, like, hey, I'm in a relationship and it's getting hard, what should I do? Or, hey, ma, da da da, because your mom knows you to a sense. Like, you came out of their vag, like, you know.
The most intimate of all things.
So they know you on a whole nother level that nobody in your whole life will know you. So, and it's a little bit of like, you're a reflection of them too. Yeah. So, like, losing my mom at such a young age, before, like, your teenage years, it was a little tough. It's not something that you wear on your sleeve, like, hey, I lost my mom, you know, and had to go through some serious things. But you recognize that even though you're missing out on those type of experiences and those type of conversations and those type of activities, you don't have to be mad once you settle in the fact that she shows up in different ways to give you comfort.
Okay, so first and foremost, I want to just go ahead and jump in and ask you, what inspired you to interview people on the street? I'm not even sure what to call it at this point. Is it street therapy? Is it, what would you
like what? I don't necessarily, people often say that it's interviewing, but I just think of it as conversing. I just like to connect and converse with people, and doing that with strangers is fun. But what inspired me to do it originally, which I feel like I've come so far from at this point, was I was doing life coaching, and I was just like, the best way that I think people can see how I work is if I work, you know? And I didn't have any clients at the time. And so I was like, people can see how I like create rapport, give support by like these spontaneous interactions. So I originally went out with that in mind, and I was like, the format will be, you know, I'll allow them to ask me a question, and then I'll ask them a question, and then I'll offer something back at the end, some gems, and wrap it up, and it'll be so pretty. And I think first it took a while to even get people talking on the street, because New Yorkers are so used to being approached for different things. So it's the no, 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 no. And I'm just like, I'm just looking for a conversation, you know, like, and then I quickly developed like my pitch and like my grab for people. But then I realized doing it, maybe even after the first time, it was my friend who had gone out with me, and we were just both like, there's magic here. There's something different that's happening in this space. And neither of us like really could put our finger on it, but we were just like, let's keep going. And since then, it's shifted a lot. I've gotten better at like understanding how to create safe space, like in a broad world, and when there's like so much busyness going out, because I do it out like in parks and on benches. And I've also like shed some of the like aim, like the personal aim in it. And it's just become like, this is my offering to the people of New York City, to give a space for them to share their stories, and then to give the viewers a chance to see New Yorkers differently, to see themselves differently, and to bear witness to the like story of another, and hopefully change how they like perceive strangers, you know, in the time that they take to do that.
Yeah, I love that, honestly. And that's actually what brought me to what inspired me when I was watching your videos. I also, and this is, as you know, I've also done this in the past. I would say maybe like a year and a half, 2 years ago, and then it faded into another hobby of mine. But you watching your videos has inspired me to get it started again. So I just want to let you know that first and foremost.
Touches
Yes.
my heart. Because listen, I'm just out here like, please, sir, can I have another? Like, you know, I'm trying to stay true to like doing it, but social media is hard. And I'm not doing it like for the like fame of social
Mhm,
media, although that would be nice because then it's like I could just do this, which would move my soul.
mhm.
Um, but like watching views and like thinking, oh, this is gonna resonate with the people. And it's like, I mean, 200 views, which is not a little bit, but like when you see the same kind of like content being pushed out and they're like millions of views or like hundreds of thousands of views, it's like, how long do I stay consistent? Because I would be happy to go out and have conversations with people and not record it, honestly.
Mhm.
Like just to put that as like a routine in my life because it's life-giving to me. But I
Mhm.
feel like there's this other part that I want to invite other people into, and sticking to that and the work that it takes is it's hard.
Yeah. No,
So I
social
appreciate the
media is no
encouragement.
joke. Exactly. Yeah, social media is no joke. And I think there's a certain level of authenticity that kind of gets overshadowed by marketing and, things like that. You have to really take your time and do all the administrative work, so they say. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I from having coming from a small business and having that for like 3 years, and my focus being solely marketing, and like I would say 70% marketing and 30% me actually creating, which is not how I
Wow.
wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was not that fun. And now that I'm
Yeah.
doing these interviews again, now that I'm, setting aside so much of my time to talk to people that I admire, I
Mm.
think that all that other stuff just kind of comes in when it comes in, and there's something to say about flow and kind of like, especially what I see in your videos. I noticed that you probably, I don't want to say probably, but it doesn't seem as if you are writing down questions. And that's what I love, because you're just asking questions as you go based off of what people are saying,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just, it's a beautiful thing. And I think if we just
Thank
focus on
you.
that in our, you're welcome. If we just focus on flow in our business, it'll all come together when it needs to.
That's such like a hard
Yeah.
principle. Like flow, trust is like so hard to grasp, I find. Like I feel like sometimes I get it on a like on one level and then I lose it on another. Like it's like trusting that it will all work out or
Mhm.
it's all good or things will happen in their time. It's like, yes, that is true and that has been historically true.
Mhm.
But like knowing when to like push or pull or move, it's like discerning that can be like
Oh,
challenging.
absolutely. Absolutely,
Hmm.
constantly. I just got out of a little bit of a funk about that recently.
Mm.
I found myself taking the people that, like I said, that I admire, and starting to, I don't want to say copy, but I was taking a little too much inspiration from their
Mm.
platforms. And
Hmm.
I was judging myself based off of how well I could copy that. And then it just,
Mm.
when you do that as a downward spiral after that, it's
Right.
just like, that's when the perfectionist comes in, or
Yeah.
perfectionism. So I had to take a second. Actually, I took a whole day and I just meditated, and I was just like, it doesn't have to be perfect right now.
Right.
I had to really rethink my intentions. So I want to go back to life coach, because I know that you mentioned that, and I really want to learn more about it. What type of like life coach are you aiming for?
I think it shifts. So like back then I was just like a generalist. I'm like
Mhm.
whatever like you trying to make this move from where you are now to where you're trying to be, let me help you. And now I'm more about helping people explore like authenticity like for themselves, like with themselves, like how can I be authentically and wholly myself? And how can I bring that authenticity to my different relationships and call authenticity and yeah, call authenticity out of other people as well. I also feel like when I started um, doing coaching or trying to do coaching, I was very like, okay, this is the best way to like present myself in this kind of like break it down like this. And the first
Mhm.
I'll do this. In the second session, I'll do this. And now I'm like, listen, I'm good at diagnosing problems and like staying with somebody as they bring up what is true and relevant for them,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing how that connects and giving challenges for them to like move forward and relieve tension. So I work in a very like dynamic and responsive way. You come, you sit with me, you bring whatever it is that you need to bring, and then we'll like navigate that together. So like um I go through like different ways of like, how do I like exactly like call myself as a practitioner? It's like, am I a coach? There's like some like therapy, like, because that's my background, involved in like what I do. I'm also training to be a spiritual director. And I've been a Christian for like the last 25, 27 years. So that is a major part of like
Mm-hmm.
how I show up in different spaces and what is true for me. So it's like I'm just a big ball of trying to stay in it with people, and trying to help them move forward through the things that are difficult and have better relationships, difficult conversations, and do that through or with authenticity.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love that because you did bring up the fact that it is kind of hard to call everything that you just defined and put it under the umbrella of life coach. It's
Hmm.
just, it's like not enough. Like it's not a big enough word.
Yeah,
But really you're just making yourself present to those who, need to speak to someone, you know.
the best way that I
Yeah.
can.
Yeah. I think it's beautiful. So mentioning that you have a strong Christian background, do you
Mhm.
find yourself um struggling with not bringing that up during your interviews, or are you pretty comfortable with um allowing them to have that space without the therapist part of you coming out, the Christian therapist part of you coming out?
Yeah, listen, the space is not mine. The space is
Yeah.
theirs, right? So like, you know, what's most present? I'll answer this question with what's most present. The other day, or like last week, some recently, I spoke with somebody who is in my neighborhood, who I had a conversation with before, and he said something like pretty profound to me just in our regular interaction. So like the next week I circled back and was like, can I ask you a question and record the answer? And he's like, oh no, whatever. He ended up doing it. He's like rambling on, like answering the questions, and I'm like following threads. And then eventually he gets to a point where he's talking about um God and his like perception of like how he views God as like because we're made in God's image.
Mhm.
And um he was like, so like we're good and bad. I feel like sometimes God is good or bad as well, that we, view God this particular way, but God is playing chess. Like he was just like saying a bunch of different things. And then he went on to like just ponder a question, or like essentially say that he wonders if God is kind. He was like, all these things, suffering and how I've suffered, is God kind? And if there is like an evangelist side of me, or like whatever, like there was so much rising in me to be like, well, let's talk about this, but it really wasn't the point of like what he was saying. And I didn't honestly feel the need to insert myself, which goes back to like that discernment piece. And I believe
Yeah.
like as I've been a Christian for so long, I think in the beginning I was like any opportunity, and I like had all the lines, and I was ready. Okay,
Yeah.
like ready. Don't whatever. President of my Bible club, like I was
Yeah.
very like in the box and was like, this is very urgent. And now it's like, is this what the Holy Spirit is inviting me into at this time? This is what I may want to do in my flesh, to defend, but we're not called to defend, we're called to witness.
Hmm.
And at this time, it's like, there's no need for me to witness. So he can wonder if God is kind, and, be in that space and I can listen to him and still hold space for what his grander narrative is. I think one of the major shifts that happened for me in my faith was this idea of feeling like at the beginning that I had to plant the seed, water the seed, have the harvest, bring people from like not caring about Christ or whatever to being like saved, that I had to do it all, you know, and walk through that process. And the Bible doesn't even talk about one person walking through that process. It talks about one person waters, another person tends, another person harvests, another person whatever enjoys the benefits of it. And I feel like in Christianity, that, or like typical evangelism or whatever, they don't have that correct. It's like, how can I pay attention to the movement of the Holy Spirit and bear witness to that in anybody that I'm encountering, and see how I can play a part in maybe drawing this person closer to the love and reality of like Christ's love for them, rather than feeling like I need to beat them over the head or be urgent or whatever. I found that that's more of a fear-based stance than a love-based stance, and I wanted to have more love in everything that I do, which takes a lot of trust and is oftentimes scary. It's like, am I doing this right? Did I miss an opportunity? Blah 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 blah. But
Yeah.
it's like, if I can quiet myself enough, then hopefully I'm getting it right, you know?
Absolutely. I know exactly what you're talking about. Now, my background isn't fully Christian. I wasn't really introduced to Christianity until later on in my teen years.
Hmm.
But when I'm sitting in front of someone and they are bearing their soul to me, the first thing comes to my mind is tell them about source, tell them about the universe. It's all going to work out. Don't worry
Yeah,
about all this stuff, you know, and it comes through my mind, but then I quiet myself and I just consider the fact that they just simply want someone to listen to them. They're
right,
obviously speaking to me and being vulnerable with a complete stranger
right,
because they might not get that opportunity to do that in our everyday life with the people that they know. So this is my place. Is I'm doing exactly what I am meant to do in this saving the world journey that I'm on, and that is simply holding that space for them, just like you said.
hmm, right,
So it's hard because we know that there's a lot of people out there that really just need help, you know, and
yeah,
we kind of get stuck in um that image of ourselves saving everyone, you know, but
yeah,
really just doing that little thing, like you said, planting that seed is all we really need to do. So
right,
yeah,
yeah.
never know
And
what happens.
can I trust that the good thing, right, exactly. Can I trust that the good work that I'm doing
Mhm.
will bear fruit, you
Yep.
know, and that my life is juicy enough, whatever, that, you know, yeah, can I partner with the Holy Spirit to like
Yeah,
to be a player in this instead of trying to be in control of it,
absolutely.
because
And who
I'm not in
knows?
control.
Exactly. And I was going to say, who knows? The Holy Spirit came to you to pick the person that you're speaking to,
Exactly.
you know? And my next question was your approach. How are you choosing the people that you're speaking to? What's the feeling that you're getting before you decide to pull someone aside?
Um, there are a couple, okay, so I guess there's a couple of different ways that I could answer that. There are natural things and then intuitive things. So the natural things are, if someone is on a phone call, right? If they are engaged in a conversation with somebody that they're walking with, if they look very busy, a lot of times if they have a pet, I'm not going to like try and approach them, for me, because dogs distract me, right? So like, although I have spoken to a number of people who have dogs over the course of years that I've been doing this, dogs distract me, and then people are like, here, my dog, let them sit in your, I'm just like, this I can't do. So there are a couple of natural things that I pay attention to:
Right.
pace, like whatever. And then there are like things that catch my eye and either draw me in or repel me, which I pay attention to as well. So like, I may see somebody and I'm like, they look really fascinating. I want to like talk to them. Or I may see somebody and be like, they don't look super desirable. And then I'm like, that's a reason why I should talk to them. You know what I mean? So like just paying attention to the push and pull that happens inside of me, as well as like what's happening naturally for this person. And yeah, it's really like it's like quick and slow at the same time, because I found that like traffic in parks, which is where I usually set up, moves like in clumps. So there'll be like nobody for a while, and then all of a sudden there are like 10 people walking by at the same time. And I have to quickly like do a quick assessment, because if I approach the wrong person potentially, and they are not willing to engage in a conversation, then I miss the crowd, you know? So it's I've just gotten good at paying attention to myself and to the other person, and then making approaches and making it clear what I'm inviting people into.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, because I do the same thing. I get so nervous when I approach people, and it lasts for maybe like the first 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the person. And there's only one time where it wasn't very, where the interaction wasn't very positive, I would say, and it's just, it's natural to be nervous. And have you ever had a time where you're just so nervous that you kind of wanted to turn around and say, never mind?
I usually have that feeling before the approach.
Yeah.
So like there's a lot of pumping up that I do, and sometimes more than others. Sometimes I'm just like, okay, I'm ready, I'm gonna do this. And other times I'm like, come on, Janille, you got this. We're gonna go talk to a stranger, whatever, like I give myself a little like hype up or whatever. But like once I decide, it's pretty much like usually smooth sailing, whether or not they like choose to like sit down with me. And I also realized that like even outside of my pitch, which is just like, hey, I have a video series where I have meaningful conversations with strangers, I was wondering if you would like to have a conversation with me. Quick, simple, like, and inviting or whatever. I find that usually I banter even before that, right? So like one
Like
of the
nervous
recent
banter, or just
not nervous banter,
okay.
just like noticing. I let people know what drew me to them
Yeah.
sometimes,
Okay.
like
Okay.
sometimes it's just a simple like, whoa, you're rocking really fast. Like, where are you going? And be like, they'll stop for a second because I'm talking to them, right? Or one of the most recent people that I spoke to, she was like taking a picture with her dog while she was walking, but she was like talking to the dog. So I couldn't tell if she was like on the phone or whatever. But she was like, come on, like smile or whatever. And I was like, not you taking a picture with your dog. Oh my gosh. Like, so I made that comment, and then she like looked over and started laughing at it. She's like, I'm trying to do this, da, da, da. And I was like, you're so like vibrant and inviting. I was like, I have this series, blah, blah, blah. And I would just love to have a conversation with you. So some people, like, I check the vibe and I'm like, I bet this is about to be a vibe. I'm going to come on my full vibe status, And other people I approach with a little bit more, like, is solemnity a word? Like more solemnness or whatever, if they don't seem, most honestly, a lot of times it's people of color that I'm approaching with like full energy, and non-people of color I approach with a little bit more like smooth, like safe, whatever. Not that I dim myself, I have all of the capacities within me, but some people bring a vibe out of me, and I'm already a vibe. So if they bring it out of me, they get in the vibe. If they don't, then they're just gonna get a like, hey, would you like to, you know?
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that's an amazing approach. And I think it's very well thought out. And I almost said you are well spoken and articulate, but oh my God, I
Not
can't
the
stand
microaggression.
God, I can't stand that.
Well, I am quite educated,
Yeah.
they say.
But I love the way that you explain what you're doing. And it's very like, sometimes I struggle when I'm interviewing people, and this goes back to perfectionism. I think in my mind that I'm not getting my point across that well. And then of course, when I rewatched the footage, nothing was wrong. And I'm
Right.
like, I'm freaking out during the entire thing. Like, oh my God, I
Right.
stumbled over my words and I said X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And I didn't, and have you ever felt like maybe that you missed something during an interview or a conversation with someone and you kind of wish you could go back and correct it? Do you ever have those thoughts?
Yeah, I do. I think I'm more so, well, I have them a couple different times
Mm.
or whatever. Sometimes when I'm rewatching things, I'm like, dang, I wish I could edit myself out completely. Like the way that I was like rambling or like didn't just let a question sit
Mhm.
or didn't just let silence be or maybe let too much silence in. I'm just like, ugh, this could be better, right? But then it's like it's not a performance. I was just being with the person, doing my best to stay with them.
Yeah, you were being you.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that's a time, and I think sometimes I get really I don't know. I think sometimes the way that I hear or see things in my head doesn't come across in how I'm asking a question. Like I'm asking a question uh two steps into the answer almost. So it's like I ask a question and they're like, "What?" And I'm just like, "Ugh." I'm like, "Well, you said that when you were growing up this happened and now this happens. Do you see, like, is there a correlation for you between those?" But I've asked the question about in some other way that I thought the context would be clear and that they connected dots, but really I was connecting dots and asking too full of a question, if that makes sense.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm doing it right now. What? But
So
but go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, 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 that's it.
Yeah, like, and this is what I love about what we do is because it's so raw, it's so authentic, it's so organic that it's like most people have teams, like thousands of dollars that they
Yeah,
spend on, these conversations that we're having. They
yeah.
have cards, they have teleprompters in front of them. And I think this is just so natural for us to be doing this.
Mm.
And I don't think that the person in front of us is judging us at all. Not that I'm saying that you feel judged. I'm just saying, the person in front of us is like, we're the only ones freaking out about this.
Yeah. It's just like sometimes I'm like, yo, it's the same thing with I guess even putting out content. I'm like, this is gonna hit. Like this is gonna bust them wide open. Like I could feel it. And then they're like, what? And I'm just like, I'm like, that ain't go as I thought it was gonna go. And now I'm like stumbling to be like, what led me to this question, and like having to retrace those steps. I think those are the moments that I'm most like, I need to either, I don't know if it's like ask questions
Mhm.
differently because I don't know if that's it, but whatever it is, it's like I could maybe stand to grow in this area in so many others as well.
Oh yeah, it'll happen just like naturally, especially with your background. I mean, you already know which questions that might be like I guess they're called like trauma triggers.
Hmm.
So, to stay away from those. What was my next question? So let's talk about, and this is kind of putting you on the spot here and let me know if you need some time to think about it.
Okay.
Tell me a time where you were speaking to someone where something that they said kind of resonated with you, with your life, and maybe it's a lesson or something that's changed you in a way.
Hmm. Um, More often than not, actually. Um, so a part of my how my conversations go, which I haven't been like showing as of late in the content that I put out, is that the question that I ask of the person that I'm talking to is not the first. I've already probably shared a significant amount about myself because
Oh.
I invite them. Yeah. So I invite them to sit down. I tell them like what this is that we're going to engage in a conversation, but then I invite them to ask me a question first as if we are already friends. Which that is like usually throws people off because I'm putting them in the hot seat of like being the interviewer or like the conversation initiator. But that part is like super important for me in setting up my expectations for them, like in modeling vulnerability, open sharing, um, and kind of like storytelling in a maybe particular way. So, like, even though I invite them to ask me anything, a lot of times people are like, well, where are you from? Or like, why are you doing this? Is like the question that I get probably 50% of the time.
Hmm.
And I take them on a journey. You know what I mean? You can say, where are you from? I'm like, well, I'm originally from Boston, but I moved to New York like 18 years ago. I also spent some of my time growing up in the West Indies in Antigua, which is where my parents are from. I grew up there with my grandmother and aunt because neither of my parents felt like they could take care of us at the time, which is actually the source of one of my greatest traumas and kind of led me to this work in the first place. Now, that's a quick, like, boom, boom, boom. But like, I could also just say I'm from Boston, right? Like, so I'm showing them, listen, whatever the question I'm about to ask, I'm looking for a story. You know, like unconsciously, I haven't said that to them, but through my sharing, I'm modeling. So that's not really the answer to your question, but like depending on the question that they ask me, it can cause me to be like, whoa. A couple times I've been like super thrown off. I think one of the questions that threw me off the most was somebody asked me if I was a planet, which one would I be? And I'm like, do I even know what the planets are and their characteristics? You know what I mean? This is so many years ago. And I was just like, I don't know which one has rings because I'm blingy. Like it was just like such a basic answer or whatever, but it made me feel so vulnerable and stupid, you know? Like I was like, I don't even know character. Like he asked it because obviously he felt like anybody can answer this question. And I was just like, I know one planet has rings and that planet is fancy to me. So like that's what I want to be or whatever. Um so that question made me like feel vulnerable and caught off guard. Um and then most recently, a couple months ago, somebody asked me a question about like, well, why do you do this? Like, what does it do for you? And like, get kind of just like kept pushing like the why. And I was just like, because I want to be needed or whatever, you know?
Hmm.
Um, and it wasn't surprising to me, but like, there's so many levels to like answering any question. Like the levels of vulnerability can go down and down and down and down and down.
Yeah.
And this person kind of was just like staying with it. And I'm just like, listen, this is not my whatever. So that was that. But then sometimes in what people are sharing, um, I've had a person share about like miscarriage, which I've experienced miscarriage in my life, and I've had people talk about like parental difficulty, which I've also experienced. Like I just feel like no matter what the tension that people are like communicating about or the joys that they're communicating about, it's like there's something that moves in my soul as well, always. Even if it's just like being with them as they're experiencing a deep like emotion, joy or pain. I'm just like, yes, this feels good, like I'm here too. Or this feels hard, like I remember this, you know, that feeling resonates with me. um so yes, I feel many things. Is that the question? I can't remember. I just went
Yes.
on. I'm like,
No, you gave me more than enough. That's awesome. So tell me this. Have you ever talked to someone that wanted to stay in contact with you afterwards? Like, do you mention your life coaching or do you try to just, once you're done, you guys never see each other again?
I don't mention my like coaching or my practice,
Mm.
unless it comes up naturally in the conversation where I'm like, this is the whatever. I don't do like a calling card or anything. Um, so that's that part of the answer. Have I kept in contact with people? Of the, I would say of the like hundreds, I wish it was thousands, but of the hundreds of people that I've featured through my platform, I've kept in contact with like a good handful.
Okay.
Um, and like when I started doing it, I wasn't collecting any information from people.
Mhm.
And then we were like, maybe we should have people sign a release just so nobody's coming for me, like whatever this may become. So now I have people's like information and their socials because like before I started putting content out, I was already like doing conversations and whatever. So the first year or whatever, those people are kind of like in the abyss. And I lately I've been staying like closer to my neighborhood. And I love that because I have the privilege of running into people um often enough. So I would say not too often, maybe like once a month I'll run into somebody that like I've connected with, which feels very often. So maybe it's less than that. But like because now I also set up at the same place, I don't have anything like a table or whatever, but because I go to the same place and sit on the same bench and invite people to have a conversation, sometimes I'll run into people on the path. So it's like they may walk the same path and they're like, "Hey, oh my gosh," whatever, which is like really like heartwarming for me. Um and then I keep in touch with some people just on social, like on IG. I'll check in with somebody if they share something deep or if like their video seems to be like picking up traction and like comments are wild. Like I'll check in on them and follow up and ask them if they want me to like change anything about like what's happening in social media world, like just to protect them, their anonymity or their like
Mhm.
emotions. So I've tried to keep up with people more. I don't think I've developed any like no clients, no deep friendships. But like one person, one of the original people I spoke to before, and this is like years ago, before I like had even the IG up, um he like followed, well, I had it but I hadn't posted anything. So like I remember when I first posted, he was like, "I've been waiting for you to like post or whatever." It was so cool. And he doesn't live in New York. He's somebody who lives in, at the time was living in South Africa, I believe.
Wow.
And we've kept in contact all this time. So like sometimes he'll send me WhatsApp notes.
Mhm.
And a couple of months ago, he like, so last year, maybe winter, he came to New York. And first he was like, "I'm getting off social media." He sent me a message. He was like, "I'm getting off social media. Would love to have your email just to blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "Cool." And then he sent me an email. He's like, "I'm coming to New York. Would love to connect." And then we met up and we had like, coffee or like what, I don't know what we had. I think I didn't have anything. He had something. And then he was like, "We'd love to like take you and your husband out for dinner." Like, and we just had a time. And so like that's probably the strongest like connection that's kept going. All the rest have been like if I see people, we'll check in real quick. But yeah, that's been cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I see a lot of opportunities coming from that, from what you're doing right now. And I know that's not the reason why you're doing it, but I think it just opens so many doors and a lot of relationships that are formed from just, holding that space for people.
Yeah.
So I think you were in New Orleans recently, right? Are you traveling around, the globe?
I wish. Listen, I
That'd be
just
really
left,
cool.
wouldn't it? I just left my teaching practice. I taught step for 17 years and I just like left that as my full-time work and I'm doing this as my full-time work.
Like dancing
Or
step or?
yeah, like step
Oh
dance,
my
like
gosh, I
African
haven't heard that
American.
in a minute. Wow.
Yeah. I started stepping in church, and then when I moved to New York, the place that my husband was working, they were like saying that they wanted a step teacher, and he's like, "My girlfriend can do that." And I was like, "Can I?" I was like, "I can do it, but teaching it, whatever." And I was just really good at it. And I think I was just thinking about this earlier. I feel like some of the same skills like that I use like in coaching, like personal coaching, like helping people resolve tension and like seeing the problem, being able to diagnose and fix it is, or maybe not fix it, to help people navigate through it, is something that I felt very strongly about when I was teaching. I'm like, just show me what you're working with and I can help you like adjust your body so that you can do this. Like, just come to me like ready, and baby, you're gonna be a stepper when you leave me if you want to. Yeah, so I was doing that, blah blah blah. Why was I in New Orleans? I was just there for fun. And I'm trying to, no, I am getting better at asking people to, like, if they are okay like with me like recording a conversation after it's already been in motion. So a lot of times when I'm going out for Street Connect, I'm going out intentionally to record like content, or like, so I'm setting aside a couple of hours and that's all I'm doing. I'm not talking to the person who's with me that much. I'm conversing with strangers. But I talk to strangers all the time. So I've just been like, okay, if this conversation's hitting, like, can I record some of it? Which is why some of the content is just me. I mean, me holding a camera in front of somebody versus me sitting with somebody on a bench. I would prefer to like sit with people because I feel like that invites them to slow down and just like be comfortable, rather than like you're standing up, you get kind of tired of standing up. You're like, oh, there's a lot going on. It's not what I set out to do. But if it's already happening, like being okay with asking somebody, which is something that I wasn't like as okay with like previously. I'm gaining confidence in being okay, like going out by myself, which is also something that I haven't done from the beginning. It's always been like a friend, like, or a videographer, loaning me their like equipment, time, whatever. But I ain't got no money to pay nobody, and it's hard to like wrangle people in their schedules with my schedules. So like last week, honestly, actually was the first time that I went out like with my tripod and stuff and set it up and was like trying not to be distracted and stay in the conversation, and hoping that somebody didn't run off with my camera,
Oh
with
my
my
gosh. Yeah,
phone.
I know
So,
exactly what
but
you
but I did it, you
Yeah.
know, whereas like before I'm like, I need somebody with me so I can stay in the conversation, blah 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 blah. And I was just like, let me just do this because it's a beautiful day and I don't have anybody with me, so let me see if I can do it. And I feel like that's going to open up a lot more, like even more spontaneous conversations, which I'm excited to see what happens.
Absolutely. I love it. No, it makes it everything more exciting when you start traveling around because you get a chance to see different people from different places.
For
So
sure.
yeah, absolutely. So just a little backstory of me, because my next question is a little personal. So before my mom passed about 2 years ago, I noticed that she had been keeping a lot of things kind of to herself that she had been dealing with. So she was on a journey just like we all are, but she kept her journey to herself. Whenever I see mothers like you who are doing all these different things to learn and grow and become an even more authentic version of themselves, I wonder immediately how their children are viewing this. You know, how are their children impacted by the things that they're learning? So my question is, your family, are they watching your videos? Are they listening to all the things that you're learning from these people? Like how are they viewing everything?
It's a good question. So my kids are 10, 12, 14, and 16. My husband is an actor, but I don't know what he does on social media. Um, like not like that, but it's like he's like, I consume a lot of like almost like slapstick humor. You know what I
Okay.
mean? And
Yeah.
he likes a lot of like, uh, what's the best way to say this? Hood humor. So like if he likes hood humor, I would say that I like white humor sometimes if there was a difference
Yeah.
type of thing. So like he's like, look at this, and I'm just like, this is
Yeah.
wild. Like I don't, whatever. That wasn't the question. And so my kids, God love them, I love them, are very aware of what I do and have at times like participated. Like, I think one of my sons, I like did an interview with him, like maybe during COVID or when I was low on content. When I used to do intros for my videos, which you could better, like more easily see on like YouTube, like I would say the same thing, like this is street, whatever I was saying. And they had that like down pat, like they knew and would like mouth it or whatever, or be able to say it. Um, I think there's a balance between them finding what I do cringy and I think inspiring. They know, I mean, I think one of the greatest gifts that we can give to our children is to be like consistent, um, authentic, and to not like lose ourselves in being solely parents. They know that like I like to go to my line dancing classes. I like to like go out with my friends. I'm going to be whoever I am outside of them. Like I want them to see me having fun, doing work, being balanced, as well as making them snack boards and dinner and engaging in conversation with them. Um, so they are very aware of what I do. They're not as one of my sons is very socially like very present. My girls are very much like if they're with their friend group, they're going. But otherwise they're just like maybe because they're teenagers. And then my other son, he just asks very thoughtful questions all the time. So like if you're gonna sit with him, he's gonna be like, so why this or whatever. So I think that they have though like watched me over time before I was doing this and like since I've been doing this, and it has allowed them to have like more freedom interacting with people in the world that they see. You know, they're like, wow, you will like, they've commented often like, you'll make a friend out of anybody, like you will talk to anybody, like, and sometimes they'll say like that's cool and sometimes they think that it's like distracting from what we're trying to do or whatever. Feel like there's so many like little things. I don't know if I'm like fully answering the question.
You are.
um I think it's just, I think it's super important that they know who I am on a well-rounded like um in a well-rounded like view, and that I feel like especially as like especially Black women often feel like they have to sacrifice so much so that their children can like have better, whatever the better is. And I don't want my children to feel that responsibility to be anything more than whoever they are going to be, as a way of like not letting me down because I've given so much. Yes, I sacrifice a ton because I have children. Period. Full stop. Okay? It's a wholly sacrificial thing. But I don't want them to feel the responsibility of my joy, of providing my joy because I'm in so much pain now because they need to have a better like jumping off point, you know? Yeah. And I
Perfect.
think that goes into the work that I'm
Absolutely.
doing and how they see me like pursuing passion and things that move my soul.
I love that. Yeah. And I love that even though your children are kind of like, posting, like you said, some things are positive, some things aren't really that the fact that they're aware of what you're doing is enough. They're teenagers, they're gonna kind of like say, Mom, that's kind
Yeah.
of that's making me uncomfortable. But in reality, they probably do love the fact that you're so open with complete strangers,
Yeah.
and I can only imagine how open you are with them at home. So it makes me feel really happy inside. All right. So let's see. Where can actually, you know what? I'm going to ask this question that I like to ask everyone, and then we can go into where people can find you, where they can follow you and things like that. So my question for you is, if you could distill your life's journey and wisdom into one piece of advice for your viewers, what would it be?
Mm, just one. Um,
Yeah, just one or a couple. I'm being mindful of your time right now. So
um, I appreciate that because listen, I'm ready to stay. um, I feel like there's like two parts, I believe. You know, okay, first of all, do you know how there are some people who like have an internal dialogue and other people who don't?
Mhm.
I don't have an internal dialogue. So
Wow.
like things pop into my mind, but they like I'm very much like I process as I speak. It's weird. Like there's not a whole like I don't have a formulated thing. So when I'm silent, it's just like quiet in my head.
That
So
is
it's like
so interesting. I learned that from TikTok, by the way. I
yeah,
had
so
no
we're
idea.
so I feel like I have two things. I think I have two things that I want to like that I would distill down. And maybe they're the same or maybe they're not. I don't know because there's nothing in my head. So the first thing the first thing is to be like to believe people. Um, I think a part of like staying in good relationship with others is like being able to like suspend our disbelief, suspend like what we may have even experience of the person and to kind of like believe good, which is hard because there's so many things that go into that. But like if in moments when people are sharing, if we can believe that they believe what they're saying, then we can like begin to engage in like with empathy, curiosity, vulnerability, and like have stronger relationships. Um, so that's one. And the other would be to like love and be loved. Um, yeah, which I think that goes without like any explanation. So maybe the first one is stronger, but I feel like the importance of like loving and like the things that go into like what it means to like fully sacrificially thoughtfully love, um if we were to do that and to try and engage in that kind of like process, um we would the world would be better. Which I always like kind of cringe when I'm like the world and it's just like relax, you know? But like like that's what I ultimately feel like this whole thing,
Mhm.
if we would just like believe people when they share what their truth is, and if we would like engage in what it means to actually love and to like the kind of like sacrifice, like lowering of self, listening, like the type of skills that are involved in loving well, then like yo, we can get some stuff solved.
Absolutely.
um yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Now,
for asking.
where can people find you on social media?
Find me in the streets. No, I'm on Instagram most active, TikTok, Facebook. I'm about to be back on YouTube, I guess, at Connect NYC. Although coming to a city near you, who knows?
Okay.
And I mean, I also, you can just connect with me on, I mean, from Street Connect, you can find anything. My other handle is Janille Hill underscore. You can hit me up there as well on all platforms.
Awesome. Thank you again. Everything you said, like, I can't wait to rewatch the video because I feel like there's so many nuggets of wisdom in there. And I just want to let you know that I really appreciate you taking your time out and talking to me. And I can't wait to see some more videos.
I listen. Thank you for hitting me up. Thank you for like engaging with me in this way. Thank you for like your openness, honesty, and like vulnerability for your sharing. I like have so appreciated it, and it's been such like an encouragement to my soul as I'm in like kind of this new journey, a new space, and trying to like find my way. To be given the gift of like space and time to like think about some of these things that are like not always kicking around in my head because I have nothing kicking around in my head, but like to like that are always like percolating in my soul. I just like you have given me such a gift, and I don't take it for granted, and I just appreciate it. Thank you for the timing in which you came into my life and space, and thank you for the work that you're doing in the streets as well.
Thank you so much. That's really nice. I didn't expect that at all. I'm starting to get a little emotional. I really do appreciate that. And same for you as well.